So what if you were minding your own business and suddenly you have a close encounter with a strange flying craft that is obviously an alien ship? What would you do? How would you live from that point on, knowing that we are not alone and they are here? That's exactly what happened to me 45 years ago. I've told very few people this story. And the reason I'm doing it now is more for posterity, I guess. Either that or I'm at the age where I don't really give a shit. But I think my story is important enough to where I need to get it out there. Believe me, don't believe me, all I can promise you is that it's true to the best of my recollection, okay? So if you're game, I'm gonna tell you about it. Hey YouTube, my name is Patrick. This is my first YouTube video, and hopefully it won't be my last because I have a lot to say on this subject, seeing as how I've had to live with it for a long time. So I've had plenty of time to think it over. But my story starts when I was 13 years old. I wasn't a stranger to science fiction. I mean, I'd seen Star Trek. My older brother was a big comic book collector. So I got to read a lot of his comics. And, you know, they're full of monsters and aliens. But that didn't affect my sighting. It had nothing to do with it. I think it just helped me to accept what I saw and to process it. I think maybe somebody that didn't have that previous background, I guess, in science fiction, could have been a lot harder for them. And that's kind of one of the reasons I also wanted to start this video and start this channel, was maybe I can reach out to some people that have had similar encounters, and maybe we can help each other out. So we'll see. But this is about my sighting, which involved not just one, but 3 UFOs. Okay? So we'll get right to it. My sighting actually started 3 or 4 days before I actually saw the UFOs. I was reading our newspaper, the Ashland Daily Independent, and I saw on the front page a little article about UFO sightings in the area. And I thought, cool, you know, and I didn't think anything else about it. But my mom, going off on a tangent here, but my mom liked Pekingeses. She always had to have a dog, and she loved Pekingese. And the one we had, she passed away a few weeks earlier than that. So anyway, I think it was like a Tuesday when I saw that in the newspaper. And that Saturday, my mom asked me and a friend of mine to go with her to pick up another Pekingese, another dog. And evidently she knew somebody somewhere. I'm so sure. So me and my friend, I'm going to keep his name out of this, but we'll just call him John. Okay, John was 2 years younger than me, 1 or 2 years. And so that put him 11, 12 years old. Anyway, so we rode out to a little outside the city to a place called Westwood, Kentucky. And it was actually a little ways up past one of my uncle's house. And I don't really remember too much about how to get there, but it was, well, back then they called them trailer parks. I don't know how politically correct that is now, but I'll call it a mobile home park, okay? Anyway, it was actually a nice little place, but we were on a 2-lane country road, and we made a right and went down a little hill, and it was just a little gravel road going down maybe 100 yards to a cul-de-sac, okay? There's nothing but trees in the back of the cul-de-sac and some mobile homes on one side and some mobile homes on the other side. So we pulled down, and she pulled off on the right-hand side, and we stopped the car, and she asked me and John to, evidently she had an idea which one it was, but she asked us to go over and knock on a door and see if that was the right place. So I said, sure, why not? And we walked over, knocked on the door of this mobile home, and nobody answered. So knocked again. And we started to walk away to head back to the car. And about that time, a window slid open. And there was a couple teenage girls older than us. And they were hysterical. And it kind of scared me a little bit because I didn't know what was going on. But they were saying things like, did you see it? Did you see it? And we're like, what are you talking about? She said, in the sky, did you see that? Did you see them? And we're like, bye. So we turned around and like headed a little quickly back to the car. So by the time we got to the car, my mom was standing outside it, and we walked up to her and we were starting to tell her what had happened. So we're finally getting to the good part. If you enjoyed the video, please like or subscribe. So a few more details. This sighting happened in 1973. Okay, it was fall. I remember it was football season had just started. I was actually playing football at the time. So also the time of day, it was evening, maybe an hour before sunset. So there was still plenty of light out. And we were parked about 20 feet away from the cul-de-sac. Okay. And so, like I said, I was talking to my mom, and I noticed something moving in the trees, or by the tree, in the back of the cul-de-sac. And I looked up, and there was a disc coming, not over the top of the tree, but kind of around the side of it. And I was totally stunned, of course. And it just slowly just floated along. At first I thought it was some kind of balloon or something because it made absolutely no sound. It was moving super slow, like 1 mile an hour. It was just like drifting, okay? And all I could see was the bottom of it because the angle, it was like here. So all I could see was the bottom. And the bottom was totally flat, but it was glowing. The bottom was like a dull red, and then it would brighten up into like a reddish orange. Not so bright that you couldn't look at it, but it was very bright. And then it would dim. It was just like pulsating. It would get brighter, and then it would get dimmer, okay? So we're all looking up and staring at this thing, and I'll show you a picture similar to what it looked like. So we're all looking at this thing, and I'm just staring at it. And it was probably 50 to 75 feet over our head. I mean, I don't think I could have hit it with a rock, but I could have shot it with a BB gun. That's how close it was. Okay? So it was very close. And I'm just watching this thing floating along, not making a sound. And I'm watching it, and then I hear like a noise, a gasp or something. And I kind of look down, and I could see other people out in their yards, you know, or in the doorway, you know, a few other people. And everybody was totally quiet, just looking up. And what had happened was another one had came out from the same direction that one had, like right over a branch of the tree. And these discs they were big. I mean, they were probably at least 30 feet, okay? They're much bigger than a car. And the second one came out, and it was doing the same thing. All I could see was the bottom, and it was pulsating. And then a third one came out. And they were all in a line, maybe 30 feet apart. And they were just following each other, and they were like in a formation. And we just sat there and watched these things just drift overhead. You know, they weren't in any hurry. and nobody was making a sound. I stopped and kind of looked around, and nobody was making a sound. They were just all transfixed by this thing we were seeing. So we sat there and watched them, and they just slowly drifted in a line, and we sat there and watched them for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, I guess, until they finally started going up. We had came down that hill into that little mobile home park until they kind of got over the top of the hill there, and we didn't see them. And about that time, my mom said, "Let's go." Excuse me. So we jumped in the car, and when we got to the top of the hill, I'm like, go right, go right. We needed to make a left, but I wanted to see these things again. I wanted to see if I could catch another glimpse of them. And this is where it gets really cool, okay? So she made a right, and it's, like I said, it's just a 2-lane country road, and she went up maybe 50 yards, I guess, and there was a place to pull over on the other side of the road. And she pulled up and parked on that side real quick. And I got out of the car, and I was looking in the sky because it was just a big open sky right there. And I didn't see them. And, I was disappointed. I wanted to see them, And I thought, where did they go? And then my eyes went down, and I glanced down, and what it was, we were looking down a valley. There was like a hill on the right, but it was a valley. And the first thing I noticed was there was power lines going down the valley. And they went down and they circled around behind that hill on the right. And when I looked to the left of it, at the power lines, there were the 3 saucers. And they were, maybe 20 or 30 feet off to one side of the power lines. And they were just following the power lines. And they were going down the hill. And then as they got down to the very bottom, they banked around to the right and disappeared behind the hill. And we sat there and watched them until they disappeared. The top of them I could see now. And they were a dull, I wouldn't say dull, kind of a dull grayish color, but they were still kind of shiny, and they had a dome on the top. Classic UFO shape, okay? And this, like I said, this was 1973. We didn't have drones and things back then, not that I'm aware of, but these were definitely otherworldly ships, okay? There's no other explanation for it. And that's pretty much the end of my sighting. Now, there was a few things that I thought about later. One of them was they were following the power lines. So evidently they were mapping the power lines, or they were just curious about them, because they were definitely following these things. The other thing was, I thought was pretty cool, as they were going down the hill, they didn't go down like this and follow each other like that, but they were like stair-stepping down. They were like going like this. So it's pretty cool. I guess maybe they were level. Another thing, these things did not rock or bobble or wobble as they flew. They were rock steady. So whatever technology they were using was pretty good. The other thing I could think of was these had to be some types of otherworldly drones. Okay, I don't think they were manned. For the simple fact that a pilot would be bored to tears going at this speed. I mean, they were going very, very slow. That's why I think that these things were probably some type of unmanned aerial craft, some type of computerized drones, who knows. I don't really think there was anybody in them, but they were definitely programmed with a mission in mind. And I had a few other thoughts, but that's the main thing. That's it. So 45 years ago, my world got turned upside down. My reality had changed. My reality now was that there is other life, there's intelligent life in our own galaxy that has the technology to get to our planet and check us out, okay? So I've lived with that all my adult life. So as you can imagine, it was always like a split, as they said in the Matrix, they said something like a splinter in your mind, and that's kind of how it was with me. I mean, it didn't affect a lot of things in my life, but anytime I would see a movie with UFOs or a book about UFOs, I would, yeah, let's check that out. You know, it became more of an interest. I wouldn't say a hobby, but an interest of mine. So, and I've got a lot of thoughts on the subject. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll be back.